This is an emergency transmission. Citizens of the world, please, make no mistake. The zombie apocalypse is near. Will you cower and hide, or join us and fight? We are Dezombified, so stay on point and watch your six.
Okay, looks like we're live. Hey there, it's Steve Stockton with you. How you doing on this Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021? Glad to have everybody with us. Huge crowd today. We've got Chris Jarvis, Master Angler, Maraid the Mermaid, Pam Smith. How you doing, Pam? Fear the Great White, Dezombified's in the chat. Jose just joined us. And, of course, the ubiquitous Gemma Jade is here with us. Gemma, how you doing today?
I'm doing really good. I just realized I messed up, but I'll tell you when you're done.
Uh-oh.
I thought I was unsubscribed to Dezombified's channel, and I was like, we got to make sure that we tell everybody to make sure they're subscribed. But what actually happened is I was still in my other account that I just made like a couple days ago to get the new email up, and I hadn't gone and I'm subscribed to anyone's channel yet, not even my own. So that's why that was happening.
Yeah.
Wrong
I've
one.
had that happen before. I've found myself unsubscribed from Missing Persons Mysteries, and I know better than that. Just now I checked. I was subscribed to Dezombified, but notifications were turned off. So
hello, everybody.
Too.
My beautiful Maraid, my cookie, Jose Maguina, Fear the Great White,
Peachy
Pam
Key, that's
Smith,
a new voice.
Master Angler, Infinite Psychosis. Everybody, welcome. It is so. Oh, Peachy Keen. Hello. Yippee. I caught you live. Yippee. Dezombified, of course. How is everyone doing on this wonderful Wednesday night? I'm looking forward to getting into the rest of this. And I've been really looking forward to it all week, actually. So I'm super amped. And next week we start season 2. So that's going to be pretty awesome.
Yep. What? We got some really exciting things planned for season 2, so you don't want to miss it.
Rick Brab, Sock Goblin, amazing, WTF.
And we'll give it a couple more minutes here. We've got 13 watching right now. 12 likes. Be sure and smack that like button, whoever's slacking there. We appreciate it. Helps Dezombified, helps the channel, helps everybody, and makes you feel good about yourself. That's the main thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, I haven't been able to vape in a couple of hours because I fell asleep and then I was hurrying up to get ready. So I'm like, I better do it real quick. But then I was talking. So, of course, I never stopped talking. And then I
vape away, my friend. This is
wasn't able to get it in.
You're sitting in the smoking section. So,
Pam Smith, I'm well, feeling rough. Second shot getting me a little, I got the one all at once. And you guys, I think know because I did the fireside chat. I got it on Mother's Day and I got the one all at once and I was sick for a couple of days, but after that it was kind of gone. But I know a lot of people that if they didn't get any side effects the first go around when they got the 2 dose, they got it the second. So don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Just kind of treat yourself as you would if you had the flu and hang out with us because Steve's voice is very soothing and he might lull you right to sleep there.
Smooth jazz, smooth as a baby's butt. Yeah, I was in Safeway. It's been a week or so ago. Safeway's a grocery store out here. I don't know. I said that one time. I told my niece I'd been to Safeway, and she's like, "What's that? A place to go when you're in danger?" I'm like, no, it's a grocery store. But they have the free shots there in the pharmacy, and there's also Starbucks inside there. And I hate that place anyway. I don't like getting out. I get out once a month to go pay my rent, and I stop in there and grab a few things since I have to go to the ATM there. And I'd stopped at the Starbucks thing inside there, and the girl's like, "Did you get your free shot that we're giving them away? We have them for free in the pharmacy." And I'm like, yes, I did. So I get one every time I come in. I think this is 7. And she had a mask on, but I know her mouth fell up. her eyes got really, really big, and I just walked away with my latte. And
Oh, that's awesome. Just so Steve, just so everyone knows, because when I wore my socially distant shirt last week on one of the streams, I got accused of wearing a shirt that says socialist just to piss people off. So my shirt says, sorry, I'm very awkward. Sorry, because I am very awkward and I'm sorry. So for anyone who can't read it or is going to try to think it says something else, I'm trying to like piss off the establishment.
Reading is fundamental.
It's just how awkward I am.
Socially distant. And somebody said, why are you wearing a shirt that says socialist? Are you trying to piss people off?
I guess it's just to piss people off. Bye.
Bye, Felicia.
But one of our subscribers explained it in a very funny way. So yeah, just I like to wear shirts that make statements. I like to wear shirts that say funny things. I think it says a lot about my personality, and I don't get out much. So, but I do make sure I read them on air, no matter what the show is, no matter what the shirt says, because I just want to make sure now that there are no mistakes. Do you want to get started? It's quarter after.
Yeah. My shirt tonight says Cheap Trick, but it's so faded out you can't see it. This shirt's probably as old as you are, Gemma. Let's go ahead. We were running through
Wheelie Morbid Bear.
We were running through the gutters of New York City with our friend David Berkowitz when we last joined you. We were finishing up. They caught him. New York relieved, had a collective sigh and was somewhat relieved. So thus began the long sentencing and prison portion of Berkowitz case, trial, whatever you want to call it. 3 separate mental health examinations determined that Berkowitz was competent to stand trial. Now let's see. The dog talks to him. He shoots people for fun. Yeah, he sounds totally competent.
Sounds legit.
Yeah. Anyway, despite this, defense lawyers advised Berkowitz to enter a plea by not guilty by reason of insanity. But Berkowitz refused. I think that's from Star Trek. In an insane world, the sane man must appear insane.
I think that's very telling, though, with what comes next, you know?
Absolutely. He appeared calm in court on May 8th, 1978, as he pleaded guilty to all of the shootings. At his sentencing 2 weeks later, Berkowitz caused an uproar when he attempted to jump out of a window on the 7th floor courtroom. After he was restrained, he repeatedly chanted, Stacy, his last victim, was I guess I can say this, whore, and shouted, I'd kill her again. I'd kill them all again. The court ordered another psychiatric examination before sentencing could proceed. During that evaluation, Berkowitz drew a sketch of a jailed man surrounded by numerous walls. At the bottom, he wrote, I am not well. Not well at all. So he at least had a sense of humor.
Can I interject quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say that, first of all, one of the reporters, when speaking to Stacy Moskowitz's mother, and I saw it, called her Mrs. Berkowitz.
Oh, wow.
And she absolutely lost it. She was like, Moskowitz, don't ever call me Berkowitz. And she was just, I mean, how do you make that mistake? First of all, like, that guy should have been like severely reprimanded. And the second thing I wanted to interject is we've talked about this numerous times. The definition of legally sane is only that the only criteria for it is that you know what happens when you're executed. You know that you're going to die. So remember the guy with the Jell-O? They said, why didn't you eat your Jell-O for his last meal? He was going to, I believe it was the electric chair. Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, because I'm going to save that for later after I come back. And they still executed him. He was the exact definition of what our country says is the definition of someone who is either competent or not competent. The only criteria is that you know that the death penalty means you're going to die and never come back. That you know what death is, essentially. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the mixing up of the names there reminds me of that old joke where somebody walked up to Steven Spielberg and smacked him. And he's like, what's that for? And they said, that's for sinking the Titanic. And he's like, no. And they're like, iceberg, Spielberg, what's the difference? Okay, boo. There's actually
I have no idea. I didn't hear you because I was reading the chat.
there's a lot more to it than that. But anyway, it was actually supposed to be Jackie Chan, and it was a much longer joke, but I won't go there. But anyway, yeah, the poor guy that they executed there that was going to save his jello for later after he came back from the execution chamber. Yeah, he had an IQ of like 60 something. So yeah, I don't think we need to be. I'm going to proselytize here, but I don't think we need to be executing people like that. Now in Tennessee, they have a law that they can't execute anybody with an IQ lower than 70. So I think like kind of that's what this was leading up to. Berkowitz was trying to act out and convince him at this point that he was not guilty by reason of insanity when figured out how long he was looking for. But anyway, none of that worked. He was still, once again, found competent to stand trial. And on June 12, 1978, Berkowitz was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison for each murder to be served consecutively. He was ordered to serve time in the Attica Correctional Facility and upstate New York Supermax prison. Despite prosecutors' objections, the terms of Berkowitz's guilty plea made him eligible for parole in 25 years. After his arrest, Berkowitz was initially confined to psychiatric ward in Kings County Hospital, where the staff reported he seemed remarkably troubled by his new environment. On the day after his sentencing, he was first taken to Sing Sing Prison, then to the upstate Clinton Correctional Facility for psychiatric and physical examinations. 2 more months were spent at the Central New York Psychiatric Center in Marcy before his admission to Attica. Berkowitz served about a decade in Attica until he was relocated around 1990 to Sullivan Correctional Facility in Fallsburg, where he remained for many years until he was transferred to Shawangunk Correctional Facility in Ulster County. Berkowitz described life in Attica as a nightmare. In 1979, there was an attempt on Berkowitz's life in which the left side of his neck was slashed from front to back, resulting in a wound that required more than 50 stitches to close. Berkowitz refused to identify his assailant, and he claimed only that he was grateful for the attack. He said it brought a sense of justice, or in his own words, the punishment I deserve. And he was just such a meek and mild and calm individual that when that happened, he walked up to a guard, holding his hand over his neck, which was spurting blood, and he said, "Excuse me, I need medical assistance." But then after that, maybe after getting the punishment he deserved, Berkowitz saw the light. In 1987, Berkowitz became an evangelical Christian in prison, following in the footsteps of people like Tex Watson, who has a prison ministry. According to his personal testimony, his moment of conversion occurred after reading Psalm 34:6 from a Bible given to him by a fellow inmate. He says he no longer wants to be referred to as Son of Sam, but the Son of Hope. Soon after his imprisonment, Berkowitz invited Malachi Martin, an exorcist. Now, those of you that are longtime Art Bell fans probably remember Malachi Martin. Some of the most amazing and scariest Art Bell broadcasts I ever heard were when he had Malachi Martin.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah. Berkowitz wanted Malachi to help him compose his autobiography, but the offer was not accepted, sadly. I would love that. Malachi was something else. During later years, Berkowitz developed his memoirs with assistance from evangelical Christians. His statements were released as an interview video, Son of Hope, during 1998, with a more extensive work released in book form entitled Son of Hope, The Prison Journals of David Berkowitz, which came out in 2006. I've read that. It's a fascinating book. Now, Berkowitz does not receive any royalties from any of his works. In fact, that's where the Son of Sam law came from, was to prevent him from profiting from his crimes. And that's pretty much nationwide. I think everywhere has that Son of Sam law now. There may be a few places that don't observe it. He continued to write essays on faith and repentance for Christian websites. And there is a website maintained on his behalf by a church group, since he is not allowed access to a computer. He stays involved with the prison ministry and regularly counsels troubled inmates. While in the Sullivan facility, he pursued education and graduated with honors from Sullivan Community College. He's entitled to a parole hearing every 2 years, as mandated by New York state law, though he has consistently refused to ask for his release sometimes skipping the hearings altogether. Before his first parole hearing in 2002, Berkowitz sent a letter to then New York Governor George Pataki demanding that it be canceled. He wrote, "In all honesty, I believe that I deserve to be in prison for the rest of my life. I have, with God's help, long ago come to terms with my situation, and I have accepted my punishment." Officials at the Sullivan facility, however, rejected his demand, and the hearing went on, and of course he was turned down. In his 2016 hearing at Shawangunk, Berkowitz stated that while parole was unrealistic, he felt he had improved himself behind bars, adding, "I feel I am no risk whatsoever." His lawyer, Mark Hellier, noted that prison staff considered Berkowitz to be a model prisoner, yet commissioners denied his parole.
They're like, we have to be the ones that deny your parole. You can't not want it. Yeah. You have to want out of prison, and we have to crush your dreams and hopes.
In 2018, he was again denied parole, and his next hearing was scheduled for May 2020, but we all know what went on in 2020, so his hearing has been delayed until further notice. Now, some interesting things here. We're starting to get into the really interesting parts of it to me. In 2002, during the D.C. sniper attacks, if you remember those, Berkowitz wrote a letter to the sniper, just, in general. He didn't know who the sniper was, but he wrote a letter asking the sniper to stop hurting innocent people. He made those comments in a 3-page letter to Rita Cosby, senior Chicago correspondent for Fox News Channel, after Cosby wrote to him seeking his comment on the sniper attacks. During June of 2005, Berkowitz sued one of his previous lawyers for the misappropriation of a large number of letters, photographs, and other personal possessions. Hugo Harmatz, a New Jersey attorney, had represented Berkowitz in an earlier legal effort to prevent the National Enquirer from buying one of his letters. The attorney then self-published his own collection of letters and memorabilia titled Dear David, which was released in 2005, which he had obtained from Berkowitz during their consultations. Berkowitz stated that he would drop the lawsuit only if the attorney signed over all the money he made to the victims' families. What a great guy. In October 2006,
Christianity will do that to you.
Berkowitz and Harmatz settled out of court, with Harmatz agreeing to return the disputed items and to donate part of his book profits to the New York State Crime Victims Board. Now we're going to take a decidedly dark turn, thanks to author Maury Terry. You want to take over here?
Yeah. I'm just trying to set my camera up right, because I felt like I was looking weird, but I messed it up. All right, guys. So, sorry, just so you know, while I'm reading, I cannot see the chat. So if you're talking to me, I'm not ignoring you. I just simply can't see. I should have just left it alone. I don't know why I do that. Okay. Satanic cult accomplice claims. In 1979, Berkowitz mailed a book about witchcraft to police in North Dakota. He had underlined several passages and written a few marginal notes, including the phrase Arliss Perry hunted, stalked, and slain, followed to California, Stanford University. The reference was to Arliss Perry, a 19-year-old North Dakota newlywed who had been murdered at Stanford on October 12, 1974. Her death, and the notorious abuse of her corpse in a chapel on campus, was a widely reported case. Berkowitz mentioned the Perry attack in other letters, suggesting that he knew details of it from the perpetrator himself. Local police investigators interviewed him, but they, now being in 2004, believe he has nothing of value to offer. The Arliss Perry case was solved in 2018. After his admission to Sullivan Prison, Berkowitz began to claim that he had joined a satanic cult in the spring of 1975. In 1993, Berkowitz made these claims known when he announced to the press that he had killed only 3 of the Son of Sam victims: Donna Lauria, Alexander Esau, and Valentina Siriani. In his revised version of the events, Berkowitz said that other shooters were involved and that he fired the gun only in the first attack, Lauria and Valenti, and the 6th, Esau and Siriani. He said that he and several other cult members were involved in every incident by planning the events, providing early surveillance of the victims, and acting as lookouts and drivers at the crime scenes. Berkowitz stated that he could not divulge the names of most of his accomplices without putting his family directly at risk, namely his father. Among Berkowitz's alleged unnamed associates was a female cult member who he claims fired the gun at Zanaro and Keenan, both of whom survived. Berkowitz said because the alleged accomplice was unfamiliar with the powerful recoil of a .44 Bulldog, Berkowitz declared that at least 5 cult members were at the scene of the Freund Deal shooting, but the actual shooter was a prominent cult associate who had been brought in from outside New York with an unspecified motive, a cult member whom he identified only by his nickname, Manson 2. Another unnamed person was the gunman in the Moskowitz Violante case, a male cult member who had arrived from North Dakota for the occasion, also without explanation. Berkowitz did name 2 of the cult members, John and Michael Carr. The 2 men were the sons of the dog owner Sam Carr, and they lived on nearby Warburton Avenue. Both of these other sons of Sam were long dead. John Carr had been killed in a shooting judged a suicide in North Dakota during 1978, and Michael Carr had been in a fatal car accident in 1979. Berkowitz claimed that the perpetrator of the DeMasi Lamino shooting was John Carr, and he added that a Yonkers police officer, also a cult member, was involved in this particular crime. He claimed that Michael Carr fired the shots at Lupo and Placido. Author Maury Terry, wrote that Michael Carr was a very active Scientologist who had traveled to their Mecca in Clearwater, Florida, and this is all alleged. We're not saying it's true. According to Terry, at the time of Berkowitz's arrest, he was in possession of a list of telephone numbers, including the number of that particular religion's Fort Harrison hotel facility in Clearwater, Florida.
Before you continue, I'd like to interject a couple things here that this just glosses over. It talks about that Arliss Perry case that he obviously had some kind of inside knowledge.
We talked about last week. Yeah,
and it just says the Arliss Perry case was solved in 2018. Well, what they were leaving out there, they found DNA on the body, which eventually they were able to test. It led to the security guard at the school, and when the cops showed up to question about it, he invited them in and then shot himself in the head. I don't think that was necessarily solved. There's a theory that I've read on some of these the really deep dive true crime message boards that somebody else killed her and he abused the corpse, shall we say, and that's how his DNA ended up on there. But if you look at it from the sense that the security guard was the person and was the killer, how would Berkowitz have known about it? That guy stayed at Stanford. He had never been put in jail for anything.
How did he even know the name Arliss Perry,
Yeah, so that was the thing. People were saying, oh, well, Berkowitz got that from some inmate that knew the details of the crime. No, the guy that they claimed did it, that they said 100% it was him, he'd never been to jail. So interesting things there. And then also where it mentions there that there was a female shooter. If you look at some of those eyewitness reports and the descriptions, there was one with like long blonde hair under like a ski mask or a stocking cap or something. And that was one of the things that makes me think there were more than one shooter. I don't think Berkowitz acted alone. If you look at all the different eyewitness sketches, most of them are different. And there's only one that looks like Berkowitz.
I think it's crazy how much and this is what kind of drew me in and made me watch the Netflix documentary again, is that I believe that the Carr brothers, 2 of the sketches look exactly like the Carr brothers, like one for each brother. And before the one Carr brother died in a suspicious automobile accident, Berkowitz had said to Maury Terry, yeah, when the cult decides to off someone, it usually looks like, I don't know, the suspicious car accident. And this was before the guy had died.
Yeah, it was a single car accident, I think on a bridge or something. And he slammed into a part of the bridge, one of the girders, or part of the structure or something, and died that way. And then the other one, John Carr, died from a shotgun blast to the head. But there's some very interesting pictures, and they're very gruesome. In Maury Terry's book, The Ultimate Evil, shows the actual crime scene photo of Carr, and scrawled in his blood, which is on the walls and the ceiling and the baseboards and everything, down near the baseboard where the body is, you can see it very clearly. Somebody has written in his blood 666.
Yeah,
That,
he definitely
that's not a
didn't do that
coincidence.
to himself, you know.
No, not after. If you blew your head off with a shotgun, I don't think you're going to be around long enough to write 666 or a Slayer or whatever on the wall.
Master Angla, the special was hilarious. I thought they did a great job. I thought they left a lot out. They left out a lot of the skeptic stuff, which we're hoping to cover here tonight if we can get through this. I believe in it, you know. Steve, whenever you're done, let me know.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out those things, which
definitely
makes me
glad you did.
A believer in Berkowitz claiming that there was other shooters.
Journalist John Hockenberry asserted that even apart from the satanic cult claims, many officials doubted the single shooter theory, writing, "What most don't know about the Son of Sam's case is that from the beginning, not everyone bought the idea that Berkowitz acted alone." John Santucci, Queens District Attorney at the time of the killings, and police investigator Mike Novotny both expressed their convictions that Berkowitz had accomplices. NYPD officer Richard Johnson, involved in the original investigations, opined that unresolved discrepancies in statements from witnesses and surviving victims indicate Berkowitz did not act alone. And I just want to interject here. One of the victims that survived, it was a man, and I can't remember his name. He's in the special. He says 100%, David Berkowitz did not shoot me. I said it back then. I say it now, and I'll say it until the day that I die. David Berkowitz was not my shooter. He is, emphatic about it. Why are there three? Go ahead.
Go ahead. It's time to take a break, but if you've got something you can
I'm just reading the rest of this sentence.
Okay.
So, in statements from witnesses and surviving victims indicate Berkowitz did not act alone. Why are there 3 suspects' cars, 5 different suspect descriptions, different heights, different shapes, different sizes of the perpetrator? Somebody else was there. And when we come back, I will continue reading about how the case was reopened.
Okay, we're going to go to break now. Buy some merch. Get a coffee mug. Chris Jarvis, you should buy several and keep your gerbils in them. They can each have their own. It's like a tiny house for gerbil. Get 200 coffee mugs, put a gerbil in each of them. Get one of those real evil pillows and send it to me. I'd like to have one. But we're going to take this break for a few words from our sponsor.
Definitely. I can't wait. That was hilarious. He never sent anything back, though, of course.
Of course not. And I believe we're back there. I see our pictures on the screen. Hope you enjoyed that break. And waiter, there's a gerbil in my coffee. And he said, be quiet or everybody will want one. But be sure and see Chris Jarvis for all your gerbil needs. Gerbils and gerbil byproducts, gerbil milk, gerbil cheese. He's got really tiny hands, but it makes him a whiz at milking gerbils. All right. Now, where were we? We were talking about all
the case being reopened.
People. Yeah.
I'm going to read the last sentence again. NYPD Officer Richard Johnson, involved in the original investigation, opined that unresolved discrepancies in statements from witnesses and surviving victims indicate Berkowitz did not act alone. He said, "Why are there 3 suspect cars, 5 different suspect descriptions? They're all different heights, different shapes, different sizes of the perpetrator. Somebody else was there." Other contemporaries voiced their belief in the satanic cult theory, including Donna Loria's father and Carl DeNaro, I think it's supposed to say DiNardo, who stated his opinion that more than one person was involved, but admitted he couldn't prove the cult theory. DiNaro's conclusion rests on his criticism of Berkowitz's statement to police as totally false. John Deal's recollection is that he physically bumped into Berkowitz outside the Wine Gallery restaurant as he and Christine Freund departed and walked to his car where the shooting occurred. Berkowitz, in contrast, told police that he passed within a few feet of Deal and Freund shortly before they entered the car. Deal contends he and Freund passed no one on their way to the car, and further that the placement of the car parked at the curb would have made it impossible for Berkowitz to have snuck up on them in the few minutes between their encounter outside the restaurant and the shooting at the car. Deal thus reasons he was shot by someone other than Berkowitz. And I just want to say, too, first of all, these two, Deal and Freund, I believe are the ones that were discussing the Son of Sam's murders as they got shot. Mm-hmm. I know 2 of the victims were. I think it was these 2. And also, there's a witness, a woman who they interviewed very recently, I think even for the Netflix documentary, but I can't be 100% sure, that back then when they interviewed her, she came forward, and today she still sticks to her story. She saw Berkowitz take the parking ticket off his car, okay, on the night that he got it, the parking ticket that got him caught, saw him taking it off his car, and 2 of the victims were shot something like 2 minutes later. And it would have taken like 5 minutes going as fast as, the most fit, best runner could possibly go to get to the car where the people were shot. So the woman says there is no way possible Berkowitz shot these 2. And I wish I had looked it up. I'm sorry. But if you want to watch the Netflix documentary, and I always encourage you to do your own research anyway, she says to this day, she said, there's no way he did it. I know who I saw. I saw him. She said, that's why I came forward when I saw that they were arresting him, because I knew he couldn't have possibly done at least those 2 murders or those 2 shootings, because I saw him taking the parking ticket off his car. So Hockenberry's report was given much exposure by Dateline NBC in 2004, and he discussed journalist Maury Terry, who began investigating the Son of Sam shootings before Berkowitz was arrested. Terry published a series of investigative articles in the Gannett newspapers in 1979, which challenged the official explanation of a lone gunman. Vigorously denied by police at the time, Terry's articles were widely read and discussed. They were later assembled in book form as The Ultimate Evil, 1987, expanded 2nd edition in 1999. Largely impelled by these reports of accomplices in satanic cult activity, the Son of Sam case was reopened by Yonkers police during 1996, but no new charges were filed. Due to a lack of findings, the investigation was eventually suspended but remains open. So this case is still technically open. From prison, Berkowitz continued to assert and expand upon his claims of demonic possession. He stated in a series of 9 videos in 2015 that the voice he had heard was that of Sam Hain, a druid devil and the true origin of Son of Sam. He added that it never was a dog, saying that detail was fabricated by the media. Sam Hain, also, we know Sam Hain Eve is what? Halloween, right?
Halloween, yeah.
Skeptics. Berkowitz's later claims were dismissed by many. Breslin rejected his story of satanic cult accomplices, stating that when they talked to David Berkowitz that night, he recalled everything step by step by step. The guy has 1,000% recall, and that's it. He's the guy, and there's nothing else to look at. Skeptics included a former FBI profiler, John E. Douglas, who spent hours interviewing Berkowitz. He stated that he was convinced Berkowitz acted alone and was an introverted loner not capable of being involved in group activity. And I just want to say here, just from the work I do here on YouTube and all of the research I've done, being involved in group activity and being involved in cult activity, in my opinion, are two different things, but I'm not an expert. NYPD psychologist Dr. Harvey Schlossberg stated in Against the Law, a documentary about the Son of Sam case, that he believes that the satanic cult's claims are nothing but a fantasy concocted by Berkowitz to absolve himself of the crimes. In his book, Hunting Humans, 2001, Elliot Layton argued that recent journalistic attempts to abridge or even deny Berkowitz's guilt have lacked all credibility. And legacy: decades after his arrest, the name Son of Sam remains widely recognized as that of a notorious serial killer. Many manifestations in popular culture have helped perpetuate this notoriety, while Berkowitz himself continues to express remorse on Christian websites. Nasa Moskowitz, who previously had not hidden her hatred of Berkowitz, wrote him a letter shortly before her own death in 2006, forgiving him for killing her daughter, Stacy. Moskowitz lost all her children at young ages, Jody 9 in a possible suicide in 1968, Stacy and Ricky 37 in 1999 of scleroderma. She had no survivors except, according to the New York Post, her daughter's murderer. After rampant speculation about publishers offering Berkowitz large sums of money for his story, the New York State Legislature swiftly passed in new law that prevented convicted criminals and their relatives from making any financial profit from books, movies, or other enterprises related to the stories of their crimes. The U.S. Supreme Court struck down the so-called Son of Sam law for violating the First Amendment's right of free expression in the 1991 case of Simon & Schuster, Inc. versus Crime Victims Board, but New York produced a constitutionally revised version of the law in the following year. Similar laws have since been enacted in 41 states and at the federal level. This goes into pop culture, which I don't know, really want to get into. I mean, we all know that there's tons and tons and tons of miniseries, documentaries, books, whatever, movies made about this case. It was on Unsolved Mysteries, the, several shooter theory and the satanic cult part of it. So you guys can look at that yourself. We're right here on Wiki, so.
No, this is, to me, the whole case is just fascinating with all the twists and turns and maybes and whodunits involved. And I never believed it was Berkowitz. And that one thing we talked about, impossible for him to sneak up on. I mean, he was the self-described chubby behemoth. It's not like he could sneak up on you too easily out on the sidewalk.
Those darn sketches, the sketches get me every time. You have a survivor saying that he saw his attacker and it looked nothing like David Berkowitz. He remains adamant to this day. And the blonde-haired man, I think, is the one that people think are a woman or was a woman. Listen, guys, if you watch this documentary, you are going to learn so many things. My son's father, who is a skeptic of everything I do, no matter what I'm talking about, he doesn't believe in it, and he pretty much makes fun of it. When he sat down and caught like the tail end of this when I was watching it, he watched the entire thing all over again, and he's a believer. So, I mean, it's like people who are usually skeptical, I use him as an example, but I know a few people like this. People who are usually skeptical are coming out of the woodwork after seeing this and thinking like, hey, maybe there's something to this. So I'm sorry I keep moving my screen, but I had it perfect in the beginning and now it's just annoying me.
But you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to wait for this to die down because he's getting a lot of press right now, a lot of attention because of the documentary on Netflix. It's been #1 on there and stuff. But after it dies down a little bit, I'm going to write Berkowitz and see if he'll write back. Now, in the past, this was back in the late 80s, early 90s, when I was doing a lot of crime reporting and things, I took it upon myself. I got a P.O. box and wrote some of these characters under an assumed name, and I got some letters back. I had a letter from one time from Charles Manson. I had a letter from Tex Watson, Robert Bardo, my sister Sam killer, the Rebecca Schaefer, I think was her name.
Yep. I
had a couple letters from him. He was actually from Tennessee, and when he found out I was in Tennessee, he really opened up to me, but I was just like, but
weren't we going to start some kind of thing where we wrote to serial killers, lesser known serial killers. I am absolutely fascinated by
let's do it.
Joel Rifkin. And Ed Kemper comes in a close second for me. I want to write to them. Even Keith Hunter Jesperson, the happy face killer, not the smiley face killer, the happy face killer. Yeah. I mean, his daughter's an activist now for families of people who end up like a girlfriend or a wife that like they turn on the news and their husband's on there as a serial killer. I hope that never happens to me.
Yep. Look at those boxes in the basement a little closer.
I'm just saying, guys, you never know who you live with. You know what I'm saying?
But the most fascinating of those letters was the one from Manson. It was just a little, like a notepad-sized scrawled thing. But one thing I've noticed about a lot of these guys, if you write to them, they pass your address around, because I started getting letters from other people in prison. Some of them wanted money. Some of them, wanted this, that, and the other. I just ignored those. But Manson, I was talking about at that time, I was working in computer tech as well. That was my regular gig, in the writing and the crime reporting and covering those cases and stuff. That was just a part-time thing. And I talked about how computers are changing the face of reporting and things like that. And Charlie wrote back, just classic Charlie rant. Said, yeah, that's me, man. I totally understand that. Everything's good or evil, black, white, 1, 0. I dig it, man. That's me. I'm a 0 with a slash through it. And I'm just like, wow.
He looks just like my ex-father-in-law.
But it was just classic Charlie. Unfortunately, I don't have those anymore. I had letters from John Wayne Gacy. I loaned my collection to a friend of mine. She was taking one of the same classes that I'd taken in the past, and she wanted to use that. And they disappeared. She claims she don't know what happened to them. But anyway.
Check eBay.
It was one of those things. Yeah, they're probably worth a fortune now. Now, I had a Gacy painting, and I sold that because it just kept weirding me out. It was
Jarvis. I'm
skull
sorry.
Clown. What is Jarvis?
This giant dragon fly across the screen. I apologize, Steve. Go ahead.
But I had to get rid of my Gacy painting. That one it kept weirding me out. And because of the Son of Sam law, he couldn't sell those, but he had a lawyer friend in Louisiana who was selling them at one time, and then he would take care of Gacy as far as what he.
That's such a real piece of garbage, in my opinion. And I'm not one to judge. I don't believe in the death penalty, and I'm not trying to start a debate. I'm just saying for my own personal beliefs. And I know people are going to say, "What about if it was your family member?" I get it, but I'll just make the general statement that normally I do not believe in the death penalty, but I do believe, that you shouldn't be profiting off of it. And if you were sorry at all, which Gacy is not, and he never claimed to be, he's almost like one of the most unremorseful that I've ever seen. And someone actually mentioned this the other day, something I was watching. I think Evil Lives Here. They had his sister on there. But anyway, I mean, I don't want to say I respect David Berkowitz, because that wouldn't be the right word. But I appreciate the fact that he is taking responsibility, as best he can. He can't bring the people back. He can't ever bring that peace to the family. But I truly believe the guy doesn't even want parole. I truly believe that he's repented. I truly believe that he's found God. And I've got to give him a little tiny little bit of credit as far as the world of killers goes, for taking a little bit of responsibility and trying to do the best that he can with what he has now, and not be trying to just pretend to be a Christian to get out. I don't know. I've been thinking about this since we started this, and it might've been one of those things where you had to be there. But a friend of mine named Mark, who I used to live with, I was watching something on the Son of Sam or David Berkowitz, and I remember some investigator had said, he's walking around telling everyone he's a born-again Christian. Dead is what he should be. But it was just the way the guy said it that me and Mark started laughing so hard that we would randomly walk around and just say that to each other on random and just laugh about it. But the more I look into this with you, the more I see that maybe he is. And I got to give him credit for not wanting to profit off it, for not, like I said, I'll never respect the man, and I'll never understand what goes on inside of someone like that's head, or why they do things they do, regardless if it was just, he did it because he was crazy, he did it because he was bored, whatever. But I got to at least say, at least he's not trying to find loopholes to screw the family out of money now that rightfully they deserve, like someone like Gacy.
Another one that I have some respect for. Like I said, it's hard to respect these people based on crimes that they've committed, but that's Charles Tex Watson. He has a prison ministry. He's another one of these. He's been a model prisoner, and he and I exchanged several letters. He sent me his book, but he talks about that. He's like, during that time, he said it was pure madness. He said, I was absolutely out of my mind on drugs. And he talked about some of the things that he was taking. I won't mention them here because some of it is things that grow wild that you could go out if you knew what to look for and take it. And he said, if you look at that booking photo of me, he said, look at my eyes. He said, I didn't know what planet I was on. But he had, the whole thing, the jailhouse revelation, turned his life over to God. And he's had a ministry now for at least 30 years, I think, in prison. It's called ALMS, Abounding Love Ministries. And he's through conjugal visits. He has children. He married a girl that started out as a pen pal, and they've got 2 or 3 kids. And I guess they're grown now because they were small back when I was writing them, and that's been 25 years ago. But I do believe he's genuine. He doesn't, I mean, he would like to get out, obviously, but he takes the blame for what he did. He doesn't try to say, well, Charlie made me do it. Or, I mean, he does blame the drugs, but he said, that was my fault for taking those drugs and things. And he's, there's a mea culpa there that he does admit that what he did was horrible. It was wrong. That something that should not have happened to anyone.
You've got to give some credit there. I don't know if I'd say, like you said, respect, but you've got to give some kind of credit there, man, because that's got to be hard knowing that you're in prison because you allowed yourself to be influenced by someone else to do these horrible, horrible things.
Yeah.
Right. And then to just come clean and say, you know what, forget all that. I did what I did, and I'm going to do the best I can to make the world a better place now. And I give a little bit of credit there. I mean, I might get some crap for that, but that's my opinion. It's better than trying to sell your paintings through an attorney because you want to screw the family out of it even more than you already have. That makes me sick.
Yeah. But I wish I'd hung on to that until now. I paid $100 for it. I sold it for $300. It was the skull clown. It's just he wasn't a very good painter at all. Very crudely rendered skull with a clown hat on it. And I think last time I saw one, and he would turn them out just one after another. Last time I saw one up for sale, it was, I think it went for between $3,000 and $5,000.
Who was it that said to us, I think it was Tessa TNT, when she was like, and I hadn't even thought of this aspect of it. She was like, I was talking about having, things having energy and juju. Like, I don't like things being brought into my house. Like, sometimes I have a hard time with antiques. But she was saying, you don't know what he drew underneath what he actually sold.
Yeah.
Like, what if he drew some kind of satanic or some kind of
sigils or something?
Right, something that's going to bring bad juju. You had a little girl in the house. I have a toddler. I wouldn't even take that chance with myself.
If he spit on it or pricked his finger and painted with his own blood or something, because I'd be sitting there, and where I lived at the time, I had my computer set up in a little nook off the living room, and I would be sitting at my computer typing, and I would look in the living room, and that painting is like staring at me because I had a living room. I mean, it was a conversation piece. People come to visit, like, what the hell is that? Oh, you like that? That's John Gacy. But it was like, it would almost glow sometimes, it seemed like, just because I wouldn't have any light on in there, but just, it was white paint over the skull, of course, but It would just really stand out. And shortly after my daughter was born, I'm like, I just got to get that thing out of here. It had a certain air to it. And the same with those letters, particularly the ones a lot of those guys like to draw and do almost like tattoo flash type stuff. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of, on the envelopes, there would be drawings and stuff. And I felt bad, that they were stolen. I would like to, if I had them, I would have sold them at some point. But again, it was one of those things that was kind of a relief when they're gone. Because like with the paranormal, like with the true crime, any of that stuff, anything that's of a darker nature, to paraphrase Nietzsche, when you peer into the abyss peers into you. And when you get in these guys' heads, when you're studying a Bundy or a Gacy or a Manson or whatever, you sort of begin to think like they do. Not saying that you're going to go out and go nuts and go on a spree, but when you get in their mind, it lets you in and then kind of envelops you, and and that's the scary part, I think.
You and I were talking on that, or speaking on that one time, how like the reason I had to move a little bit more into the paranormal and get out of so much deep diving true crime. I was just deep diving. It was really getting to me, just draining me. But what I wanted to say, guys, because we have like, I think 10 more minutes. I'm not sure, 10, maybe 15. Those of you who didn't catch my new video on vampires and who didn't see any of the recent streams, I don't know what's going on with Gemma Jade YT@gmail.com. I deleted every single thing out of the account. I paid for extra storage and I'm still over quota and cannot receive emails, which totally stinks. It's an inconvenience for me too. And I'm sorry. My new email is gemmajadeparanormal@gmail.com. I will put it in the chat as soon as I'm done talking. And so if you have, fiction short stories that you wrote, if you have a subscriber encounter or stories your own that you want to send, if you've already sent them and I never responded, you've got to send them to my new one. Like I said, it's not my fault. I did everything that I possibly could, but Google does not give you the option in any capacity to speak to a human unless you pay for a Premier and or business account, which I do not. And also I put out a video on yesterday about vampires, and on Friday, I'll be releasing Shadow People Part 1.5. So I have the entire weekend free. My son's going to my mom's. So I'm going to be able to get a lot done, not only on the book, but for content for the channel. And I absolutely cannot wait. So, yeah.
But yeah, even like with the missing person stuff, that gets dark. And that makes me think it's because there is a supernatural element to some of that somewhere. There's some of those missing person cases. Once you get in there and you start studying what really happened and what appears to have happened, what did happen, there's a darkness to that as well. So everything we delve into, it gets dark at some point, and you have to take a step back and go read a comic book or watch a comedy or something. And even then, don't put on a Jim Carrey movie. We talked about that theory that Jim Carrey is a prolific serial killer that hides in plain sight. So, there's evil.
Nothing would surprise me anymore.
Yeah, same here. It's just, I think we're in some sort of alternate timeline, bizarro world. I think Earth ended in 2012. The Mayans had it right. And we're what spun off and went flying off. And
I'm still researching. I can't find a lot on it, which is why I haven't said anything about it yet, but I'm still researching this whole prison planet thing. I know a lot of you guys think it's fantastical and don't agree with me, but I'm still researching that. I'm still almost convinced. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say. This weekend, I'm going to be doing a couple of charts that I've been promising people. So if I had your information to do a chart, your name, where you were born, your birth date, and if you have at the time of birth, but that's not 100% necessary, it just makes it a little easier, send that stuff to gemmajadeparanormal@gmail.com. And I might also do a few Skype tarot readings depending on how I'm doing with time.
And when you send that in, also include your social security number and credit card information.
Yes, and your credit card information. Now people are going to be like, Gemma!
And your credit rating.
Look, Gemma's trying to rob us. Gemma! Socialist.
Well, you're from New Jersey. It just comes naturally, right? We'll just paint with a broad brush there.
Can't help it. Yeah, Melissa Nicole, I'm going to rewatch it as well. I, as usual, drank my medium coffee and now have to pee really, really bad.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm drinking here. People always go, Steve's having a beer. Well, I'm over 21, believe it or not, but it's a diet.
That's because you're a little baby face. What did someone tell you? You just need a woman's touch. You're like a big old teddy bear.
Yeah, I'm a chubby behemoth like David Berkman.
I don't think he wrote those letters either. I think the one letter was written by one of the Carr brothers, and I want to say Robert. I think they were Robert and Michael. Robert, the one sketch really resembled. I believe he wrote that. A lot of it, I believe he wrote it about his own father. I don't know if he wrote it or maybe somehow dictated it to Berkowitz. But guys, if you're interested in this and you really want to know a little bit more in depth, I mean, I think we went pretty deep, but again, we scratched the surface with Wikipedia. We could have probably made a whole season on this, which is something that we're considering doing, maybe not for season 2, but maybe like season 3, just do one thing and just do it podcast style maybe, or just pick, like, for instance, and it won't be anything like this, I don't think, like season 2 serial killers, and we do a different serial killer for 8 to 10 episodes, or, you know, torture slayings. Because like I said last week, there were so many more that I wanted to talk about when we were talking about Diana Downs and Darlie Routier. And so we're not sure what we're going to do with season 2 yet. We might just keep it like this, but we are talking about just changing it as far as that. The content's still going to be exactly the same. It's just depending on what we're going to cover and how we cover it. I would have loved to do several episodes on the Black Dahlia. So, which we could have technically done, but we were so used to doing 3 cases, 1 episode, and then 1 case, 1 episode. We got to figure that out. Because
I like this, what we did with Sam, where it took 2 episodes and we still didn't really cover everything.
That was going to be my point. If you want, check out the Netflix documentary, or do your own research, or even, the book, Maury Terry's book. But the easiest way to see, like, the bulk, like the meat of the subject, is to check out the Netflix documentary. I definitely recommend it, but I've really got to pee. So I hate saying that on air, but it's true. It's the only way I can let you guys know, like, I'm not trying to rush off air, but I've
have a bucket or a mayonnaise jar or something.
No, I'm not a dude. Okay.
Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. And just want to say, if you do enjoy the Netflix documentary and also the one on Ted Bundy, the Ted Bundy tapes, if you like the music in that, go and check out my buddy Justin Milland. He's on SoundCloud. He has just the music from those. I've actually got some equipment here in my studio that I bought from him that he used in the Ted Bundy tapes to make that music with. But if you want something creepy to put on while you're writing, if you just want to set a mood, Justin Milland, Melland, on what I say, SoundCloud or whatever it is. SoundCloud, yeah. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you for joining us. Gemma has got to pee. So we said, respect the pee there. Next time we'll give you a paper clip.
Next time I'll just pee beforehand. I forgot. Okay, no more talking about pee, please. I'm very uncomfortable.
Camp potty chairs. You just sit on it. You could go without pants. Nobody would know, and just there you go. Or Depend. You can put on some Depends on.
All right, guys. I love you guys. Have your best day or night, depending on.
Go ahead.
Depending on where you are, have your best day or night. Be kind. Always go in grace. Just be decent to one another. Respect one another. And I love you so much. And we will see you next week. And probably most of you come in for Friday night campfire stories, which we might be changing the format to that as well. But I will see you there. Mwah! Bye-bye. Keep in touch through email, GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com.
And me, you can find me all over the place. You can see me Friday night on Campfire Stories, Sunday on Fireside Chat. We're going to change some of that stuff up, though. And every night on my 13 Past Midnight channel, Ghost Stories at Midnight. So we'll see you for that tonight and every night. In the meantime, I'm Steve Stockton. On behalf of Gemma and myself, thank you all. These hours just start going faster and faster. We may have to expand this show out a little bit. I figured you were going to pee, Gemma. But we're out of here now. Thanks again, everybody. We love each and every one of you. Be good to yourselves and each other. I'm Steve Stockton. I'll talk to you next time.